A happy new year, first of all, and I hope you've all had a phenomenal start to the year. So in this video, I wanted to share 5 reasons I've decided to niche down into aviation and aerospace. Many of you may have seen in my last couple of posts that I've decided to focus on these sectors, and some of you might be thinking, where on earth has that come from? You know, it seems to maybe perhaps come out of nowhere, and so I wanted to really provide some context and give you a bit of the backstory and tell you why I'm making this move in my business. And so a bit of backstory for you. So back in, I believe it was the end of 2021, I get an email from Cranfield University asking me if I wanted to participate in this scale-up program focusing on aviation. Particularly for business owners in my area that wanted to scale up and also kind of focus on aviation. And so although I had not thought of it before, I thought, sounds interesting. I love to study, love to learn. Cranfield University has a great reputation in terms of business and entrepreneurship. I thought, why not? Anyway, this program ran from January 2022 to March, and the more I began to look into this sector and understand the sector is the more I felt like, wow, this is a really huge opportunity, and I actually love what I'm learning. I love the look of this sector, and it may be, for the first time in 7 years, I may actually be ready to niche down into this sector, because although, you know, in COVID it was the worst of times for aviation, I could see that in many ways the sector was moving into the best of times. Sometimes it takes a massive jolt to bring about change, and I felt that that's what was happening in aviation. And I felt that I was becoming really excited about the sector and its cousin, aerospace, as well, the more I kind of learned. And so for all of 2022, while I continued to work on the projects I was working on behind the scenes, I was really researching and understanding the sector. And the more I learned is the more I kind of loved what I was seeing, and the more I could see that there was opportunity for me. And so my first reason was absolutely passion. I think that although passion is never a good basis to build a business on alone, that should never be your only factor. For me, it is vital, because understanding what it requires to build a business, not just launch, but launch a sustainable business and build well, the effort that requires. I decided a long time ago that I was never going to do that unless I was passionate about the work I was doing, unless the work that I was doing was contributing to my legacy and the impact that I want to make in the business world and beyond. As many of you may know, our slogan for the launch strategy is launching legacy, and so everything that I do has to be about that. So reason number 1 was passion. But reason number 2 was also frustration, because as I began to look at the aviation industry, I began to see that, hold on a minute, the marketing is not great. Their communication is not great. Same with aerospace. There's some phenomenal minds, arguably some of the best minds in the world are in these sectors, and yet the awareness around this sector is there's virtually none. The marketing that you see from these sectors is honestly quite poor. I mean, can any of you, for example, name one single aviation company that isn't an airline? Can you name one of the major players in aerospace? It's amazing to me that actually the UK is such a major player in aerospace. Half of the satellites in space, mini satellites in space, were put there by the UK, and nobody knows. Like, the industries are great at speaking to themselves, but in terms of, you know, attracting interest from outside, in terms of speaking a language that other people can connect with and resonate with, like, there's just nothing, or very, very little. And so again, this frustration began to build in me, like, actually, no, something needs to be done about this, and I have the capability, my business has the capability to do something about this, and it's very necessary, because I believe we're going into one of the most exciting times in aviation and aerospace history. Everything from, the technology we're seeing in mini satellites, the UK's launch capability, different fuel types, innovative aircraft design, just a phenomenal time. But there needs to be that same level of creativity and ingenuity in terms of the marketing and the promotion of the sector and industries in the sector that are coming up, that have been there and that are just emerging in the sector. And so that leads me to my third point, my third reason, and that was product market fit. Because I feel like unless you have product market fit, you don't have a business. It doesn't matter how passionate you are, it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do, it doesn't matter how good your team is at what they do. If there is no product market fit, forget it. And so for me, it was like I had, as I began to look into the sector and research and understand and talk to people in the sector, it was like I had unknowingly built a business model that was fit for purpose. And it seemed to me that I had identified this hole that my business could fit almost perfectly. And so it was just a bit of a light bulb moment. Like, a lot of people say that you should niche, you need to identify your niche when you get out the gate as soon as you start your business. I don't believe that. I believe that it takes a while. You have to learn your market, you have to understand your customers, you have to understand what your business does well, and that takes a while of operating in the business and working with clients and understanding the market and the people that you want to work with. That actually takes time, and it took me 7 years to feel ready to niche down, to feel passionate and equipped enough to niche down. And so that brings me on to point number 4. It very much feels like a natural evolution. So although, unless you understand my business or know me or know my business, it may seem like it's come out of the blue, and in some ways maybe it has. For me, it feels like very much of a natural evolution. And as the leader of any business, there's that visionary side. There's that side of you that has to have an eye on the day-to-day and what makes businesses work, business development, operations and all that stuff. But there's also that part of you that has to be able to look into the future and say, actually, this is where we need to go. And for me, it was very much that natural evolution, that culmination of the two coming together, the vision of the legacy I want my business to leave, but also the practicalities, the day-to-day, my business model and how I run my business and what we are great at, that led me to want to niche down at this point. It just feels right. It feels like a natural evolution. Which leads me on to my final point number 5, entrepreneurial gut instinct. Now, every entrepreneur will tell you that there is points in your journey where there is gut instinct, where there is knowing, and you cannot always put your finger on it, but you know in your heart that it's a direction you should follow. Now, don't get me wrong, gut instinct is never enough. There has to be a strong business case, which is why, although I had the gut instinct way back in the beginning of 2022, I haven't moved on that gut instinct until 2023, because experience has told me that gut instinct isn't enough. Nevertheless, I do have that gut feeling in the pit of my stomach that this is direction that you need to take your business in. It's happened to me 3 times, and this is the 3rd time, in fact, and every time I have been proven right. History has proven me right. The first time was when I knew it was time for me to leave the corporate world. On paper, it looked like I was at the peak of my career. The next level for me probably would have been board level, but I knew it was time for me to jump out. I could not fully explain why, I just knew it was time, and like, my journey has proved me right. The second time was when I hit a roadblock. Although I knew this was probably year 3 of business and what I was doing just wasn't working, and I completely stopped, and I hired a coach. I remember one day she said to me, "Katrina, you launched," and I remember looking at her and thinking, my God, absolutely, that's what I do, that's what I should be doing, that should be the core of my business, that is USP, that is my USP. And the Launch Strategist was born, and almost immediately I started to gain traction in my business. And this is the 3rd time that I felt like I needed to go in a particular direction. And so as much as I'm saying all of this and it's all valid, there is just that entrepreneurial gut instinct that is telling me, Katrina, this is where you need to take your business. And so I cannot tell you how excited I am. I kind of understand why it's taken me 7 years to niche down, because I think when you have spent time building a business and you have jumped into the deep, into the unknown so many times and landed on your feet, it gives you an appetite to risk and a fearlessness that only comes if you've been on a journey like that. Which is why I think that it's probably taken me 7 years, because I think had it been earlier in my entrepreneurial journey, I probably wouldn't have had the appetite for risk. Now risk just excites me. And I think as an entrepreneur, we have this, it's not arrogance, but there's this astronomical self-belief that we're just like, we absolutely can. We absolutely can, and we're absolutely gonna just jump into the wild, because and you have to have it as an entrepreneur. You have to have nerves of steel. You have to have resilience. You have to have this self-belief that you just know that you could do it, you know? So that's kind of a little word of encouragement for some of you. Like I said, always back that up with kind of a strong business case. But it's a really, really important quality to have on this entrepreneurial journey. So I'm excited to take you guys with me. I'll keep you posted. We have a podcast that we're launching very soon that I'm so excited about as well. It's called Launching Legacy, the Future of Aviation and Aerospace. And I have just had the pleasure and honor of talking to some great people. So really excited to bring that to you. And also, if you know any businesses in aerospace and aviation that need a launch strategist, you absolutely know where to send them. So I'll speak to you soon, and speak to you soon.